Are they all entrepreneurs? What do they do?
A well-organized structure and outline of their
What
book.
was your best interview and what was your worst? Greetings from Chicagoland. Welcome to Munira's Musings. Our guest today is Jeremy Jones, all the way from the West Coast. Where are you calling us from, Jeremy?
Scottsdale, Arizona, where it's getting nice and hot and toasty over here.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a podcast where we bring in entrepreneurs to talk to you, to share their remarkable stories and allow them to open the doors to insight and growth, which often can create a whole new perspective for our listeners. These stories are real and they spark real interests, and this is an invitation to grow. So go ahead, grab your pens, sit back and listen. So welcome, Jeremy. Welcome to Munira's Musings. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me here. I grew up in Southern California. I went into the military. I was in the U.S. Navy for 4 years and was stationed on an aircraft carrier. So I lived on a ship and on an aircraft carrier for 4 years. And then after I got out of the military, this was 22 years ago now, so a very long time ago, I moved here to Phoenix, Arizona, where I've been for about 22 years and now live in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I have two primary things I'm focused on. Number one is my podcast. So I also host a podcast called Ideas and Impact, which Munira, you've been a guest on. And I love that platform. I have over 460 episodes now, and it's been great. And I also run a specialized book publishing company, and our specialty is publishing books for coaches, consultants, and agency owners to help them generate more leads, get more speaking opportunities, and just make books flat out profitable to get a lot of readers online. So those are the two core things that I do.
So communication, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
In print and vocal. How did you fall into this space?
Yeah, so I'd say the core, if I was to narrow kind of the core of what I do, it's education-based marketing. So when I was first trying to get my business up and going, I hired a coach. And one of the things that this coach taught me was a principle called education-based marketing. Rather than just pushing and pitching and offering my services, I had to figure out creatively a way to provide education, something helpful. So I was creating lead magnets, I was creating helpful resources, and I started my podcast as a way to provide value in advance. And when you provide value in advance, it helps people, first off, without asking anything in return, but also lets people build a little bit of rapport and get to know you a little bit. So that's the kind of the core of what I do is education based.
Let's go back a little bit. First, let me thank you for your service to the
Thank
nation.
you.
And so that's amazing. But you must have been very young when you joined the Navy.
I was, yeah. So I got out of high school, and then within about 5 months, I joined the Navy. So it was before I turned 18 years old, and then I got out when I was, 22 or something.
So right out of the Navy, is this when you decided you were going to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I had the desire to run my own business, but I had no idea where to start. So I didn't have any family members really that ran their own business. I had an uncle that was a freelancer, and I kind of saw how the freedom of time and flexibility that he had. He was a professional photographer. Other than that, not really. I didn't have any family members that could mentor me or provide any sort of guidance, but for some reason I had the desire to. I did a lot of when I was in high school, I used to do yard work a lot. I would go do yard work and do different physical labor type things. But I always liked the flexibility and the freedom to work my own hours, be my own boss. But I really didn't know where to start. So when I got out of the military, I got my bachelor's degree, and I was working for a company. And that's where I started doing freelance work and work on the side. And I did that for about 5 years until I hired that coach.
Okay, so now that you've hired a coach, why communication? Why is this such a big thing in your life?
Yeah, so it really comes down to education-based marketing. So you can provide value by packaging your expertise or a way to help someone. It cans and clones helping someone one-to-one. So you could go meet with someone and take your time to help someone, or you could package that into something like a lead magnet where you're giving them for something of value. And it's a great way to promote your services by offering something of value. And books do the same thing, but it's on a little bit of a larger scale. So instead of a short, a lead magnet, you can provide something highly valuable in about a 100-page book. And that's what we work with consultants on. So let's say there's like we've worked with a bunch of health consultants that help people to change their diet, change their mindset, change their fitness level. And we can provide that in a book to help them change the mindset that they have around how to lose weight, how to take care of their health in about a 100-page book. And those that want more or to go deeper could reach out to that health coach or that health consultant in order to work with them further. So it's like a way to start the conversation about what a service provider does.
Okay. So then you've got your podcast, which thank you for allowing me to be a guest. But then you've talked to over 460 people. Are they all entrepreneurs? What do they do?
Yes, majority, 95% of my guests are entrepreneurs. So they're normally in the business, growth, or financial category, or they're in the health category. And we've had a handful that are in the, personal relationships, networking, personal relationships, parenting, stuff like that. So usually falls into one of those categories.
So what was your best interview and what was your worst?
Oh gosh. I wouldn't say I have any worst interviews. The worst interview I can think of, which I'll just touch on real quick, because I don't like to say there any of them are really the worst. But the worst is like if you're thinking about being a guest on a podcast, is to not answer the questions at all or answer questions really briefly. Those are difficult for me because I'm trying to like dig answers out of someone. And to be a good podcast guest, which I coach a lot of people on being a good podcast guest, it requires providing an answer, providing some context, giving some sort of an example, but then also giving some space for the host, like yourself, Munira, to ask a follow-up question or a clarification question to have the host kind of guide the conversation and where it goes. So I without naming names of the conversation, I'd say that those make it a difficult conversation. And I've had dozens and dozens and dozens of really, really great conversations. I mean, there's a bunch. I don't have one that just sticks out, but those that provide value without gatekeeping, without holding, they don't give just generic answers. They provide as much value as possible. Those are usually the best interviews. And I have a bunch. I mean, there's a bunch on there.
Great, great. So now let's talk about publishing, right? How did you
Sure.
start that facet of your career?
Yeah, great question. So when I hired that coach, I was able to begin to market my business properly using education-based marketing. I started speaking. One of the things that I did for education-based marketing as well was do presentations and speaking. So I started doing some speaking. And as I was speaking, I was meeting other speakers and found a lot of them had a book. So I authored my own book. I started marketing and promoting it. And for the very first time when I published my book, I was paid to speak at an event. Someone that had seen my book and they read it invited me to speak at their event. I was paid multiple $1,000s to speak at this event. And the meeting organizer wanted to speak with me about what else I could do for the attendees. And they ended up purchasing a book for everyone attending at the event. And it was a very large event. It was 2,200 books that they purchased, plus they paid me multiple thousands of dollars to speak in an event. And I thought, wow, this is really amazing. I'm being paid to come in and provide education and value. And then when I spoke at the event, I had several people that came up to me after and asked if they could work with me further. So I found out that this was a great model to help people that like teaching and speaking. They like providing value in advance to be able to help speakers and consultants and coaches that would rather be teaching and sharing information than like pitching their services or promoting their services. It was a great way to provide education in advance. So about 5 years ago, I developed really a start to finish process where today, literally, we can take a consultant that's wanted to write a book for a long time. myself or someone on my team can interview them for about an hour. We can pull out all the education and information that we need from them in about an hour, hour and 15 minutes, and we can put together a 100-page book by ghostwriting it. And then we do everything else. We put together the book, we publish it, we launch it, we write ads to it. And just in May, we're in the middle of June now, but just this last May, so last month, we launched a brand new book before we even got it on Amazon, and it did over $5,200 in sales before we even got it on Amazon. So it's a great platform, and we've got a great system. I've taken now over 200 people through that process.
Do you recommend that every coach out there, every entrepreneur should write a book?
I think so, yeah, because it's a great door opener to the services that you have. Now, there's a caveat to that. I don't know if every coach should type it, because I find a lot of entrepreneurs are not skilled in writing. It's just not to say that coaches are not good writers. There are some good coaches and consultants that are great writers. Most of them are not. They're not skilled writers. However, they have great ideas that they could be authors of ideas. Most of the best-selling authors you see out there that are also entrepreneurs do not sit and type and write their own books. They have some sort of assistance to help them with ghostwriting. So I developed a very simple way that an entrepreneur can sit down and, with our process, organize a book blueprint, is what we call it. And the book blueprint is a well-organized structure and outline of their book that then we can interview them on and get all the ideas out to put together about a 100-page book.
So, with all these people writing books, are there enough readers?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So you think about if anyone listening, as a listener to this podcast, if you're listening, if you've ever read a book on, business development, you don't read one book and then you're done, right? You read a book, you apply it, you learn, you develop, and then you go look for another book, or because you like the topic and you're refining your skills constantly. So because technology is changing so quickly today, you could author a book, and next year, because we have AI that's changing so fast, these new innovations and new technologies are moving so fast, a lot of people want books that are published in 2025 or 2024 because they have a lot of new innovative things and strategies that business owners can consider. Whereas 5 years ago, we weren't talking about ChatGPT at all because it wasn't around. So we're in different cultures constantly.
Do you use AI to write the books?
No, I don't recommend it to write. I recommend it for brainstorming. But when you use ChatGPT to write contents, it's very obvious that it was written with AI. You can tell there's speech patterns that AI just develops. Like if you see, a lot of content on LinkedIn, you'll see in our busy hustle culture today, or our busy, there's these common terms that you'll see over and over and over and over again. You can recognize it. So I think people are more and more savvy in being able to recognize that. So I like it for brainstorming, coming up with ideas, but ultimately the content should be, written by a person.
So one thing you asked about ghostwriting. When you when you write, say you interviewed me and then you ghostwrite my book, how do you figure out the tone of my writing? Because every person has their own tone.
Yeah, if you're not a writer, let's say it's a consultant that's a writer, they don't have a writing style because they're not a writer. If you're a consistent writer, you'll see writing patterns and writing styles. For someone that's a speaker, they have speaking patterns. So they have certain ways that they speak and certain ways that they communicate things. So when you interview someone, that comes out when they speak. So if they do a lot more speaking than they do writing, when you see them speak or you hear them speak on podcasts or webinars or presentations, you'll start to notice these vocal patterns and patterns of the way that they say things, the ways that they tell stories. And that can be then just translated and communicated into the written word, which it would be book content.
Okay. All right. So how do people find you, Jeremy?
Yeah, so I have a free guide that they can get on our book strategy. You can get that at yourbookblueprint.com. We have a 5-step strategy on our book, how we put together books and we launch them very effectively. So you can get that free guide, yourbookblueprint.com. And if you go there and you get the guide, you can contact me any way you'd like. So it's yourbookblueprint.com.
Okay, thank you so much. Any last words for the people who are listening, who are entrepreneurs, authors, coaches?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So a lot of coaches get excited about a book idea and they just start typing away and they think, well, I don't need anybody's help until I'm done, and then I'll look for a publisher. And we find that a lot of times that's a mistake because they go far down the path before they consider a lot of really important things. So if they get my book blueprint guide, it's similar to if you're building a custom home, you first build a blueprint to the home before you have the workers come in and build up the structure of the book, and it comes out much more valuable as a home. So just consider that as you're putting together a book, to structure and outline it properly before you start. And that's the way you get a book done efficiently.
Great, great. And this is such a wonderful conversation, and we would like to continue. But this does bring us to the end of our episode today. I hope today's conversation gave you something to think about, maybe a fresh idea, a little encouragement, or just a new way of looking at things in the entrepreneur world. If it did, and you thought this was amazing, why not pass this interview along to a friend and keep the conversation going? If you'd like to hear more stories like this, be sure to subscribe to our channel so that the next one finds its way to you. And we'll see you next week, ladies and gentlemen, with another coach, another entrepreneur, another story. This has been really amazing. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you so much.